You're listening to the Get Peeled podcast, a space for life enthusiasts to get inspired, learn through others about fitness, business, relationships, and life itself. I'm your host, Hannah Eden, a fitness entrepreneur that has an obsession with sweating and a burning desire to share and inspire others with the lessons I've learned through fitness. Yo guys, welcome back to the Get Peeled podcast. I am Hannah Eden, your host, and today I have a very special guest, Miss Kelly Matthews. We have to set the tone. If you're not watching, we're in a very intimate and sexual place. We have Kleenex tissues because we're pretty sure that there's been some funky action going on in here.
I don't know what's gone on in this.
Could be tears.
Shag room.
Could be.
Maybe tears is a good one. Maybe a lot of sharing.
Yeah, I mean, it is intimate.
It is.
It reminds me of the movie with Russell Brand, and he's like, have you smoked to Jeffrey? And
yes.
He's like stroking the fur balls.
We have a thigh master.
Well, this is what's really important. People want to know what the secret is? Well, here it is, my friends. There.
There's actually no gym on it. It's all fake. No. It's just all thigh masters.
Yep, that's the way it is. And a 4-pound kettlebell. And that's it. But for real, I'm here. I'm very grateful for you being here. I always try and set the tone because some people may have met you, some people may have never met you before. But the reason why I wanted to meet up with Kelly is because I'm not that much of a person that explores on Instagram. I'm more of I use it more of a tool just to push rather than to look, because otherwise I get all in my head about shit. But I remember someone sending me your page, a random person saying, you need to meet this chick. I think you guys should throw down. I'm like, I'm going to see who this is. And I clicked on it. I was like, holy fucking shit. This girl is so strong. She's like extremely alpha, which I dig. I come across that way too. Like, she knows exactly who she is. But the biggest thing that stood out to me is that you just don't give a fuck. You've got 60,000 people following you on Instagram. You are RKC certified. You are now a strength and conditioning coach at Collective, a new space that is opening up here in Austin. And it's very evident that you're passionate about bells, you're passionate about fitness and changing lives. So that's me setting the tone for you.
Love it.
And now we'll set the tone for what the podcast will be. So we touch on 3 subjects every time we meet, and there's no structure to any of this at all. And we'll probably, knowing that you also have a little bit of ADD, there's probably a really good chance
this could get rough.
This could get weird, so just hold on to your seat, all right? But we try and touch on 3 things, right? Which is personal, business, relationships. So we'll start with personal so we can get to know you a little bit more. Okay. But tell us who you are. We'll get you going. I feel like I'm lounging and melting into this
I'm
seat.
not exactly sure where
Neither
to
am I.
Orient.
Well, we can pretend that that's there. We can just chat.
Okay.
You know?
It's so funny because I always have such a hard time answering this question without making it what I do, which obviously is part of who I am. But I am a Boston native. I am a sister. I'm an aunt. I'm a coach. I'm an athlete. I'm a dog mom and a cat mom.
Love it.
I live by myself, which I love. I like to play. I'm goofy. And yeah, I don't really give a fuck.
I love that.
Very
In your
often.
bio on your Instagram, I think it says something like, I like to move and I'm often grumpy. What does it say again? Help me remember that.
Yeah, sometimes informative, always grouchy.
I love that. I'm like, I think we could get to know each other. On my shirt right now, I'm an introvert, but I'm willing to talk about fitness.
Yes.
People think that I'm a loud, outgoing person, and I am if it's in the right setting.
Yeah.
But if not, like I was telling you this morning, I melt and want to blend into the wall and get super awkward and weird.
Same.
So I'm glad that we can connect on something that we're both interested in and to get to know each other and share, right? So originally from Boston, why the move? I've waited to ask you this. 31 years old, big change, born and raised in Boston. You recently moved to Austin. Why?
I think a number of reasons. I sort of started to get the itch probably 5 years ago, honestly, where I just had this feeling that I really didn't want to live in Boston for my whole life. And I was training at Equinox at the time, and I had a very good business that I was running there. I didn't have any online business whatsoever. I didn't have essentially any income outside of the sessions that I was doing in the gym. And that always I felt trapped kind of by that. not actively in the moment where I was like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. But it was just like, if I were to move somewhere, do I really want to take this thriving business that I've built for 5 years now and start it from the ground up with absolutely nothing, no income, no, obviously you have some experience under your belt, but just the idea of abandoning that felt so big to me, and just sort of like a leap that I wasn't ready to take at the time. I was also in a relationship, and, we kind of discussed the idea of moving. He was from Seattle. And so that crossed my mind where I was like, okay, if he wanted to go back to Seattle, that might be a good move. And then he kind of decided he didn't want to go back to Seattle. And then towards the end of our relationship, it was like, okay, well, we're going to be in Boston indefinitely. And then COVID hit. Everything went virtual. I immediately pivoted and took all my clients to virtual sessions.
I'm going to put a pin there. Let's hope that I get back to it. Okay.
Did all virtual sessions. That relationship ended, and then I started really thinking like, okay, what else can I do that will be... I've always thought about passive income and the idea of passive income being something that like I really need to figure out how to do, because there's a limit to your time as a trainer. Every trainer runs into this, where if you have a good business and you have, you can have 100 clients that want to work with you. You have, if you're being healthy, 6 hours in a day that you should train. I really don't think that most people should train more than 6 hours a day.
Then your other 7th hour isn't getting your best self, right?
No, exactly. It's like I had plenty of times where I was doing 7, 8, 9, 10 sessions in a day. And do you think that 10th person is getting like the Kelly that like the 7 a.m. got? Yeah. Probably not. So there's a limit to my time, and I started thinking, okay, can I start to grow a little bit of an online business or following? It didn't even start as business. I was just like, let's just spend a little more time doing this and see what happens. And then once that started to expand a little bit for me, the option opened up to not be in Boston anymore. I'm not training these people in person, really. They're willing to stay virtual, and I have some online business that's starting to pick up. So I don't really have to worry too much about there being absolutely no income when I move. And then I was like, all right, where do I want to go? I've been to Austin once for a wedding, and I just fucking loved it. Yeah. I just stepped foot in the city, and I was just like, oh man, I love it here. Like, I just love the vibe here. I always wanted to move somewhere warm, at least for a little while. Being from Boston, I suffered many winters.
Yes.
So I really wanted to try and be somewhere warm, at least for a period of time. So it was just kind of the perfect storm. I looked at apartments, and I was like, I guess I'm just going to do it. Why not? I had not really taken a leap like that in my life as long as I can remember. And it's just not the way I wanted to live my life. And I found myself pigeonholing myself a little bit too much and being too comfortable and not willing to get out of my comfort zone. And it's now feeling how I feel now and being where I'm at now. It's just such a big realization that you have to do that in order to grow. It was like I was just stunting my growth by not doing that. So like the move to Austin was just this like really great kickstart to all these wonderful things for me. So
that's awesome. And I think what you just said right now is so important, and something that we should go into a little bit deeper, right? Like I call it self-sabotaging, especially when you know that you have an opportunity. Opportunity sometimes comes with more responsibility. And when you're not used to that responsibility, it can seem overwhelming. Yeah. So then you just don't do it, right? And people always say to me, like, everyone has an idea, but where do you get the confidence to execute the ideas that you come up with? And that, I think, is through trying many little things and it either working in my favor or not, and then having to pivot and figure out what's next. And then you almost build like stripes on your belt, right? And then your confidence level goes up. Had you been making decisions, well, obviously if you had broken up with your previous relationship, that's a decision right there. Were you in a relationship for a long time?
It was about 4 years. It was on and off.
That's a long time. That's a long time.
It was a long time. It was, that was like thinking back on it now, it feels really crazy to have, if I like lay out the whole story of that relationship, it doesn't even feel like me anymore. The idea of like sort of what I was willing to put up with at the time and what I was I don't know, wasn't myself, and
Which
it's not.
to me is shocking, and I think that's important too, because you're a very confident person that I say right now, like, you don't give a fuck. So clearly you weren't always that person, and now this new inner strength and confidence has come from making decisions that were hard, uncomfortable, but worked out in your favor.
Yes, and I think it was just such a huge lesson to me that, like, when you have a gut feeling that, because I never felt like that when I was in the relationship. I never felt like I was sacrificing that much, or I never felt like I wasn't being my whole self. Mm-hmm. But when I look back on it now, I'm like, I wasn't at all. Right. Like, there were so many things, whether it had to do with him or had to do with constraints that I was putting on myself, it wasn't empowering me in any way. The relationship did not empower me to be a better me. It didn't empower me to feel like I can just do whatever the fuck I want to do whenever I want to do it. And so it's such a blessing that it didn't work out in whatever capacity. Like, I was completely heartbroken, but it was just, by and large, one of the best things that's probably ever happened to me, honestly. Because I think about where I would be now, like, I would probably still be in the same
situation.
Like, same apartment, same job, same shit, and, like, just caring a lot about things that don't matter. And, so, that was a big lesson in, like, this, you need to be able to just find your own way and be who you are on your own. And it's not that, like, I don't think that I can do that within a relationship. I think for me, it was just that it's been a year and change. That year was just like it reminds me of like Super Mario when he like goes into the mushroom. It's like that's how this year felt for me.
But you know what? I think that's such an important lesson, because it was probably one of the hardest, most uncomfortable things that you've done in your life. But if you hadn't have done it, you would have remained the same, right? Which is something that I think everyone needs to experience. But to that point, if you have a gut feeling that you're not in the right place, or if there's somewhere deep down that you're doubting, then you've got to listen to that. That's your inner monologue telling you something, and a lot of us don't listen to it. We shut it out and think, oh, this is all I'm worth, or this is all I can do, or we limit ourselves. But unless you're shoved into a really uncomfortable place, most people don't make that big step to make that happen. So wherever you're at, if you're not 100% content, or you don't see it as being something that is pushing you to be the best version of yourself, then fucking make a change, man.
Right.
And it's so easy. It's so much easier said than done. But I hope that two people that can show you that have now come out on the other side of the struggle, is what I call it, have found, like, that enlightenment stage of, like, fuck, man, everything was worth it. All those places and all these obstacles that have been put in the way were a reason for you to get here,
100%.
Right? Now that you're here, you are extremely confident. Have you always been that way?
In certain aspects of my life, yes. In other aspects, no.
Do you think that you're finding, like, a way to fill all those places?
I think so. And I think the more I explore the confidence I have naturally in life, the more it expands into the places I don't have it naturally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like within relationships. And it's not, with relationships, I never really felt pretty secure. But having gone through something that, like, was sort of traumatic and makes you question your confidence within relationships and, like, your validity as a partner and things like that, and, like, what you deserve as a partner and what you have to offer. Now my standards for things like that and my confidence within even just very casual dating scenarios, it's just like immediately I'm just like, I'm not putting up with that. I don't have time for that. I not only am 31 years old, it's like I'm not in my 20s anymore. I don't need to, like, marry every person that I'm going to see, but, like, I just don't put up with bullshit anymore. And I think the more you don't put up with bullshit and the more you're able to set boundaries with people and let people know, like, this is what I expect. This is what I'll give you. Always, I'll give you the respect. I'm not going to play games with you. I'm not going to, any of that shit. And that's what I expect in return. It's just, like, complete honesty, complete, like, authenticity. And that's really all you can offer and all you can ask from someone in order to, like, whether it's friendships or relationships or business relationships, whatever. And that's what's been so great about Collective is that I feel like everybody is really coming from that place of
Yeah.
just like being super fucking pumped to be doing what we're doing
Yeah.
and like be in the space that we're in, and we all just really genuinely like each other. So it just comes from a really good place of wanting to work together and wanting to see everybody else succeed and succeed at the same time.
So for the viewers, can you give us a little bit of an understanding of what Collective is and what it's going to be and how you got involved in that world?
Sure. Collective is a social performance club, is what
Love
Jeremy.
that.
So, Jeremy Hills is an Austin guy. He is who pulled Collective together. It is his vision, and it's pretty amazing. It's the idea behind it is basically like, how can we give members everything that they need and want under a roof? So when I think about what that might look like for me, it would be like, a lot of us bounce around from thing to thing. And some people like that, right? Like they like to have different places for their, PT and their massage and their whatever. So here we're kind of pulling that all together. So we have a full medical. So it's physical therapists. We have 2 physical therapists that are amazing, that are offered to all the members. They'll get an assessment when they come in. And then, so if you were going to train with me, then Danny or Alexis would say, hey, Hannah is working with this, this, and this. Let's program these things for her. So you automatically have the support of a PT team like behind you to make sure that you're healthy and able to like train in the way that you need to train.
I love that. I think that is overlooked often.
100%. It's amazing to me to see it come together, because that is so... I've always been very comfortable referring out and operating within my scope of practice. I think it's a huge problem in our industry that trainers feel... Either they feel pressure to perform outside of their scope of practice, or they feel empowered for some reason to be giving medical advice. It's like, I'm not a doctor. I did not go to med school. I did not go to physical therapy school. I have a lot of information about training, but I'm very comfortable when someone comes to me with an issue that I don't know the answer to, just being like, this person probably will have a better answer for you than I will. So having that readily available is amazing.
And to that point, the person that you're telling that to is probably so grateful that you did that, rather than, all right,
yeah,
who are you? You're not a doctor.
I don't have to have all the answers.
Thinking. Right,
yeah, like I do not need to have all the answers all the time.
And someone that does is probably not the right person, because no one has all the answers.
Right. So we have medical, and then there will be Milk and Honey, which is like a local luxury spa, is building out the spa.
Ooh,
so it'll be massage, facials, all that. Cold tubs, infrared sauna, full like recovery relaxation room. So we'll have hypervolt, like the boots, like the recovery boots, and the like Theraguns, all that stuff. And then there will be obviously strength floor, all the gym things that you could ever want, classes, small group training, boxing, and then there's a full co-working space.
Awesome. Which was where we threw down. So I just went over there, and I'm going to use one word to describe it, and I've let you know already, and that is sexy. It is a sexy gym.
It
like
is
makes
sexy
my
as hell. Yep.
heart go boom boom like crazy. That's maybe because this is what we do, but a good aesthetic of a gym space to me is very, very attractive.
When you get it right, you get it right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so nice.
And it's not easy to get right.
No.
So whoever if it's Jeremy, well, props to him, because the vision is beautiful and it looks so luxury and so like high end. It's a really cool thing. So if you're in the Austin area, you got to check that out. You guys aren't open yet though, right?
We're not technically open to the public, but we are doing, we do a community class for people that are looking to join. And then we are taking on founding members right now.
Cool.
So basically that means you have access to the gym a couple days a week for open gym hours. It's just that like the locker rooms aren't done yet. We still have some construction to get done. But, the goal is to get as many people in to kind of see the vision and get them on board. And then when things are like fully up and running, we'll be off to kind of a hot start.
Now, it is August 10th today. I was just checking my phone for the date, just in case this is aired, maybe a little bit, probably in a couple weeks from now. I had 6 to 7 weeks today when I was in there. So that's something to look forward to and to definitely go check out, because it's rad.
For sure.
And now, how did you get the opportunity? I saw you post something about Collective and how you were going to kind of step away from personal training and then you went back into it. Tell us a little bit about that and how that came about.
So when I shifted everything virtual and online. When I moved here, I didn't want to rush back into an in-person training job, essentially, or get myself into a gym space right away, because I knew I would be kind of getting my bearings and getting my feet underneath me, and that I had the wiggle room because of the virtual business that I didn't need to immediately get back into a gym. I just really wanted it to be a right fit, and we talked a little bit about, I started at Equinox. You know, I went through their education system. I spent a long time there. I have a lot of respect for them as a company and my experience there.
Well, you tune into what we were talking about for someone that may be wanting to start a career in fitness and becoming a personal trainer, how we were saying people might have an opinion about big box gyms and that whole thing.
Yeah. And I do. It's like, it's not that everything was, you know, rainbows and butterflies.
Right.
At Equinox, for me, it wasn't. And there was a lot of the culture there that I struggled with. But in terms of big box gyms, they do it the best. Like, they will educate you.
Yeah.
They invest in you. And if you are a green trainer and you're looking to get experience, get exposure to all different types of populations, not to mention connections you can make in places like that with other trainers, with your bosses, with your clients.
Yeah.
It's very, very valuable. So I would not change starting my career at Equinox at all. But by the end, I was like, this is an experience I had, and now I'm ready to not work in this environment anymore. It just wasn't for me.
I like that.
And so when I thought about joining a space here, I just wanted it to be different, and I wanted it to be maybe a little bit bigger for me, and something that just felt like I was building something, and it was something that propelled me in the right direction.
Would you say that collective challenges you?
100%. I mean, the people that work there are... I feel like you should work around people that make you feel dumb.
Yeah. Honestly, I will say that the one things I noticed when I walked in and all the trainers were there, all your crew was there, I was like, man, it's like a group of friends that are trying to build something together. And that is like very hard to come by because of egos, because of people's lack of confidence that they feel like they're going to compete with everyone that's next to them. But it just felt, and I was in there for half an hour. It just felt a good vibe. The jokes that were going on, the shit talking that's happening amongst each other, like that is everything. Because that you guys will stick together and you can feel that. So props to everyone there.
It is amazing to me how quickly we all clicked. And I have been around a lot of the egos and a lot of the things like that I struggle with. And there's just honestly none of it there so far.
Yeah. Are you the only female trainer? I know there's the chicks that are helping with management and physical therapy.
So right now, actively, yes, but we have Sandy is another female trainer that will be coming from a different space in Austin. She technically starts in the fall, probably like when we open, but she's on the team too.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's funny because they hired me and then it was like all the guys and then they were talking about bringing one more trainer in and I was like, it better be a woman.
Right. Oh, really? I like that.
They're like, we know. I was just like, you gotta
mix it
represent.
up a little,
yeah. Like, I love the guys there. Like, I love them so much instantly. They became friends, and I'm very comfortable around dudes, but I'm a girl's girl. So I was like, we gotta have some like strong-ass female coaches in here.
That. I like that.
So yeah, it's been a really awesome environment. It's very challenging in terms of just... It like lights a fire under my ass a little bit because the people around me are very smart, very driven, very like they know what they want. They've known what they want for a long time. Yeah. And it's nice to kind of feel like I'm playing catch up a little bit where I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it's like, I can incorporate some of that stuff into whether it's my business mind or even just small things with training. Like I missed that so much being in person is like being around other trainers and just bouncing things off of each other. Yeah. What do you think about this? Why are you doing that? Tell me a little bit about this. And it's so much fun.
It is.
To
really
be learning
is.
From each other.
You said a comment like, it's kind of fun being like the dumbest person in the room. And what I'm about to say is not saying that I was the smartest person in the room because I wasn't. I didn't know what I was doing. But from building something yourself, right, from the ground up, being green, right? I think I told you I was like 23, 24. I remember like at year 4 being the boss, right? And I fucking hate being a boss. First of all, I'm the worst boss ever. The way I look at it is like, I am not the best leader. I think that someone could do a damn better job than I can do, and this team deserves that, which was also why we went in that direction. But I remember thinking, like, I've hit this wall now, right? Whereas before it was like trying to figure out all these things, trying to know where to go. It was like, you're moving so fast. And then I stopped and was like, I'm not going to grow or evolve if this continues, because I am now at the top of the chain as far as this community and this team. And I don't like that. I've always been the hardest worker in the room, but I've never been the smartest, which is what gets me off of trying to catch up, trying to level up and see what else is out there, and learning and bouncing and evolving with people. So I think that is so key that you said that. And so be the hardest worker in the room, but make sure you surround yourself and you've got someone in that room that knows more than you, someone that can make you feel a little dumb, right? Because it's going to challenge you in ways that maybe you wouldn't. If you get to a point that you think that you know everything and that no one else can tell you what you could do to be better, then you need to fucking slap yourself, because you got an ego.
100%.
Check it.
100%. And like, everybody comes from a slightly different perspective. And for example, at Collective, it's like, I have really embraced kettlebell training as sort of my niche a little bit. It's not the only thing I do. And especially when working with clients and stuff, I do a lot of traditional like strength and conditioning, stuff like that. But like Tim comes from, like, he does a lot of like jumping, and like he dunks all the time. So it's like he does a lot of athleticism and like explosiveness and running, jumping, all that stuff, which I love. So I'll train with him and do that, incorporate some of that stuff into my sessions, because I think everybody should be able to run and jump and sprint. And then like Eric does boxing and Ryan does boxing, and like they also have their own like unique perspectives. And then like the physical therapists, they have their own perspective of like making you a better mover and like working with your compensations and things like that. So when you bring that all together, it might not be that you're actually the dumbest person in the room.
Right.
It's just like when it comes to those other modalities that you have less experience with, you can always be a sponge. You can always be absorbing other people's knowledge. Right. And it will benefit you.
Absolutely. And I think that's what, doesn't matter where you are in your game. You should continue to learn more, continue to further your education. There's never a point where there's a list of certs that you check the boxes off and now you're good to go, you know? So I think that furthering education is a big, big deal. And I'm trying to get back into that now, because business takes over and that is the front runner, right? And it's like, well, shit, now I feel like I'm stagnant and I feel like I keep repeating things and I need to learn things. And that to me is like, no, I don't want to be a sellout. You got to keep raising the bar. I got to keep pushing the envelope. So that's a key point right there. Now, as far as business and personal, we talked about you as a person, which I think translates straight into your authenticity online, which is what I was saying. It's like, it's so refreshing to meet someone that knows who they are, doesn't give a fuck if people like it or not, because it's genuine and it's real, and that's so hard to come by. And to see that on Instagram and then come and meet you in person and it's the same thing, just want to say thank you, and don't stop doing that, because the further you go and the more you keep going, and maybe you have more opportunities to meet people, you may have more opportunities to get with these bigger companies. It's easy to let that get to your head, but having the right support system, having the right people around you, and surrounding yourself with family, friends, whatever, that can keep you grounded, I think that is something that's going to make you stay in this industry for a very long time and like make your way to the top. And that was something that I thought was really funny, because years ago it was the total opposite. I said that to you this morning. It's like, I was trying to figure out how I could blend myself in to make sure that people would like me, right? And that constant feeling of, I'm a people pleaser, I want people to like me. Tell us about how you are able to ignore the noise, which I'm sure you get shit. I get shit all the time, right? For being different, for being weird, whatever you want to call it, for being true. Like, how do you work through these things? How do you have so much self-confidence and to look the way you look? You're strong. You've got really freaking cool hair. If you're not watching, she's got pink hair, shaved on the sides, braids up top. Like,
it's all sweaty now.
Such a rad vibe. Like random tattoos all over your body. Like, you got a cool vibe. How do you find that? And how are you so confident within yourself?
I think a lot of it, in terms of what I try to put out online especially, are messages that I feel like sometimes get lost in the shuffle when it comes to fitness, because I fucking live and breathe fitness all the time. I love it. I love to move. I love to learn. I love to do all this shit. And like, I love being strong. And so when I think about what makes me love it, but also what might make somebody who's looking at it feel disconnected from it and be like, well, no, like, that's her. Like, she's able to do that because X, Y, and Z. And just bridging that gap and making, because I've always felt like the most important thing to me is making it accessible to people and making people feel like this shit that I'm doing, yes, it's cool to see, you know, the really complicated stuff and the really like stuff that people play with for fun when you get to be a really efficient mover. It's awesome. But also being like, if you get out and you fucking go for a walk today, that's great.
Yep.
Like, you're doing it right.
Yep.
And then maybe you pick up a kettlebell, maybe you whatever, and just being like, I have never really fit like a real traditional beauty standard from, you know, my perspective and feedback that I get from other people. And that's hard sometimes. Like, I'm sure you've felt that being like a fit girl. Being fit was not always cool. No. And even now, it's like, I have a bigger frame than a lot of, like, the fit girls on Instagram. Like, I'm pretty beefy and thick. And, like...
Dude, but if I was to describe you, beefy and thick is not the words I would use, in case no one's watching this.
I mean, it's like,
this chick has a waist that's tiny, strong, badass legs, abs that stick out for days, and you've got a fantastic physique.
I was talking about TikTok with her before this, and it's like, I call TikTok the Wild West because people just say whatever the fuck they want. And it's like the number of people that come on there and being like, is that a dude? Are you a dude?
Me too, dude. Or, you must have a dick. It's like, go fuck yourself. No, I don't. You want me to prove it?
And it's like, you think it doesn't get to you, but you're like, you find yourself, you see it enough, you're like, fuck, like, God, it starts to get under your skin.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It starts to get under your skin. So just being like, no, fuck that. Like, my body does shit that, first of all, whatever you like keyboard warriors are up to.
An armchair
expert.
I love that. I love that.
Just like the fucking incels, it's like, I know that most of them are sitting in their mom's basement, like, just eating Doritos and, like, just hating their lives and hating everybody else for being happy in their own life. But it's actually a good exercise for me to, like, remind myself that, like, my body allows me to do shit that I just, like, fucking love to do. And I love the feeling of, like, getting stronger and being able to do things that I couldn't do 6 months ago or things that things that a lot of dudes can't do. Like, I'm real proud of that. And I don't want to sacrifice that for trying to fit into some kind of particular box.
And that's important, right? Like, I think that at the beginning of anyone's fitness journey, I got into it because I wanted to look a certain way. But that shit will disappear real quick, and you might be in it for a month, but, like, that isn't about it anymore. It's like, I'm going to, especially when it comes to food, like, I'm going to eat to fuel my body so I can perform at the things that get me off, that make me feel confident, strong, and powerful. So I think we can.
And I'm going to eat food that I like because I'm a human being and, like, I want to go and eat a steak sometimes and, like, an ice cream sundae. And that's fine. I mean, that's why I stay away from diet, nutrition stuff a lot. I really don't like to. I'll talk about nourishing yourself. And if you're, you know, wanting to take in more protein, if you're wanting to feel like you're eating more whole foods, things like that, I'll always preach treating yourself well. But I really don't like to get into the, like, you know, like, body fat percentage, all that shit. And I get that that is a big selling point for a lot of trainers. It's just like, it's just not my thing. I don't want that to be the focus. It's not the focus for me. Can I, like, reel it in sometimes and be like, I really want to, like, I'm not going to drink this month, and I'm going to try and, like, stay away from refined sugars, because then I see how it feels when I'm performing under those conditions.
Not about what it does physically for your aesthetics, but wow, I feel better.
Yes. And I understand that some of that is a privilege when you have just been used to being really active for a really long time, and different people are in different scenarios. But if you prioritize that in your brain where it's like weight loss, body fat, like you said, you're always going to fluctuate. Your body is always changing. And if you're living a life that's worth living, you're not going to be fucking 8% body fat all the time.
And nor should you.
No.
You know? But I did live that life. I lived that life for, like, 2.5 to 3 years, because I think once you're able to get your physique or your performance to look or perform a certain way, then you hold a standard for yourself of what you should be or look like. But I will say that is also not healthy, because then you forget about really what the passion is and you're doing it for the wrong reason. So I think we have a saying that is find your reason, right? Like that, and that can change from time to time, but it's got to be more than aesthetics. It has to be. And dieting, I don't believe in diets, right? Diets, like you said, like they're not sustainable. And I think that as a fitness professional, we would be doing our clients a disservice if we started to promote that shit. And that separates, no offense, no, I'm not going to say anything to anyone, but fitness influencers on Instagram versus a fitness professional that is a trainer that deals with people in person, that has been doing this for more than a year. Like I want to see someone that's been in the industry for 5 years. It's hard. It's hard to stay in this industry for 5 years. So finding the right reasons to be in it has got to be more than aesthetics, and to be real, because I'm sure you could help someone lose 30 pounds in 10 days. I'm sure I could too. But what good is that going to do? We're going to fuck you all up. That's not healthy at all. So it's refreshing.
And it's nice to have, I get that people maybe will start their journey for aesthetics reasons. And if that's what gets you into working out and caring more about your health, great. But I have found that over time with clients, it does shift. It shifts from, you know, it might ebb and flow a little bit where they're like, I have a vacation coming up and I really want to, fine. That's human nature. People are always going to be like that. But getting people to shift their mindset from an aesthetic goal to a performance goal is like my favorite thing. I'm like, sure, you want to lose that extra 5 pounds? You can focus on that. I'm going to get you to do a pull-up. Like things like that. It's just so different, the fulfillment that you get. Because we all know, we've all been there where you're like, if I just like shave off, you know, 1% more body fat, then I'm going to be happy and I'll feel good about myself. You feel the same. You and always look at yourself and you're like, oh, well, I still got cellulite on the back of my legs. I still have this. Like, if I could just fix that. And you know that it's just you're never going to feel differently until you change your mindset.
Yeah. Focus on the feeling, right? Rather than the look.
Yes.
That's so true. So true.
Yeah.
It's our squad. Love it. So we've talked about you as a person and how it's come through into your business. Now, relationships are something that we've touched on also, but I want to talk about that as far as moving from, I touched on it in the gym with you, but from Boston, where you're born and raised, you've got this comfortable community around you. Moving to Austin away and making that big change alone, was that hard? Was it easy to make friends? I know we touched on it, but I think what you said to me would be cool to repeat here as far as community.
I'm pleasantly surprised at how embedded in this community I feel, because I'm an introvert naturally, and I said to Hannah, I haven't had to make a new friend in like 10 years. And I was like, do I remember how to make a friend? I don't even know, because in Boston, it's a combination of a lot of things, but culturally in Boston, it's not the warmest city in the world. It's very cliquey. So you find your people, and those people are ride or die for you. Like the most loyal friends you'll ever have in your life. But you're not going out and meeting new people all the time. You don't have people that are constantly looking to expand their circle, because they have their circle. They're fine with it. And so you go out and there'll be like groups of guys, groups of girls, and it's like if one guy wants to hook up with one girl in this group, that's the people you'll meet that night, and that's about it.
That's what happens.
Whereas here, it's like people genuinely want to get to know you, and they want to fuck with you. Like if you meet and you hit it off, like somebody will invite you to something and they mean it. It's not just like, oh yeah, I'll see you whenever. So I made a point to like do activities when I got here because I was a little nervous. And so I just made a point to start playing soccer, start like going biking, and people that invited me to things, I just said yes. I was like, I'm going to be a yes man for a few months here and just hopefully find some people. It's easy to not though,
right? It's easy 100%. To be like, oh.
Well, I love my apartment. I have my pets. I love being at home. So I'll have to have some weekends where I don't leave my apartment. But then I'll also have weekends where I'm just like
all out.
Social butterflying. Yeah. And my friends from Boston are like, I can't believe like what a social life you have there. I'm like, I can't fucking believe it either. I don't know how it happened. Like it just kind of popped up, but it's been great. And I love it. I feel really lucky in general to have really, because I think what I was most afraid of, I knew I would meet people, But I was afraid that the quality of friendships wouldn't be exactly the same. And it's not a replacement, right? It's just, it's different. But the quality of the friendships here has pleasantly surprised me because I already feel like I'm creating roots here.
Mm-hmm.
And that
I
feels
think
good.
Because you were born and raised in Boston, right? I was opposite. I'd lived in the same place in the same house for 16 years and then was uprooted, dragged across the country, dropped in this like fucking foreign place.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling at some point sad, being like, man, I'm looking around and tiny town. Everyone has been friends since middle school.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, their parents went to school and married each other's cousins. And now, like, it's just such a small town.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling at one point, like, man, I'm never going to have that. Like, I'm never going to have that group of girls that are my girls since kindergarten from this point onwards in my life. But I think because I had that narrow state of mind, I, like, stopped myself putting myself out there as much as I could have or letting my guard down entirely to let people in.
Yeah.
Until I moved area code. And then I totally did the same thing. So from that lesson, like, now I have best friends that mean more to me than the people that I knew when I was 2 years old, you know? So they are lifers. They're my ride or dies now. And now it's been 10 plus years. So now they are my friends for that long. So if you're ever in an unfamiliar environment, you've got a new start, put yourself out there. And I think group activities and the gym is huge. And I know it's a little weird now with things that are going on. But anytime anyone came into our space in Fort Lauderdale that wasn't from there, I'm like, there's a reason why people come to the same space, right? Mm-hmm. There's a common goal that we have here, which is like to move, to shake, to whatever, have fun, but do that. Put yourself in environments where it's consistent and it's a group activity and open yourself up. Let your guard down. We have signs on our door that say like, be whoever you need to be as soon as you open this door, right? Like, do that. Put yourself out there. Do something that makes you feel uncomfortable. Go to a new space. Sign up for a new class. Yeah. Just do something new.
I mean, be your weird fucking self, and people that are the same brand of weird will be attracted to you. That's how I always feel. It's like, I can definitely be pretty reserved in group situations, and I'm starting more and more the longer that I'm here, just giving less fucks about I feel like it's a slippery slope for me now where it's like, you know, I've always not given very many, and as time goes on I just like give less and less.
I think that's the way you have to continue to be, as long as no one's feelings are getting hurt,
right? And
it's your own future and your own judgment by your weird behavior. Like, I'm the weirdest person, and when I get uncomfortable I'm even weirder. Like, I dig the biggest hole and Paolo will look at me and just be like, girl,
Come
words.
on.
He's like, words. Because I'll just start speaking and nothing makes sense, right? Because it's uncomfortable. But I do want to just point something out that's really fucking creepy. You ready? So we were talking about, it's behind your ear.
Oh,
we have another tattoo that's the same.
Are you serious?
I swear to God.
Oh my God.
Weird. Okay, we were talking about tattoos, and I'm like, yeah, I've got these really lame quotes all over my body. She's like, yeah, me too. I've got this one that says, go confidently in the direction of your dreams. I'm like, shut up. Me too. But I finished the quote, and it says, live the life you've imagined.
I thought about very shortly after I got the first part, putting the other half somewhere else on my body. So that would have been really fucking weird.
Which now that I did this when I was 19, but Thoreau, right? What a dude. I didn't know anything about ancient philosophy when I got my tattoo because I was just immature and thought it sounded cool.
Yeah.
But now I'm obsessed with it and it's a huge part of my life. So maybe it was meant to be. There you go.
Yeah.
But what's this one behind your ear represent for you?
So I have two sisters. So, yeah, I have sense. Well, do you have a lot of people ask you if it's like the fucking Harry Potter symbol?
No. So do you remember Charmed?
So that was the next thing that I was going to say. Charmed. Was people were like, oh yeah, the Charmed symbol. And I was like...
Me too. I'm like... Deep breath.
Yes, that is what it is. Because it is. That is the symbol. I looked it up and I was like, oh yeah, it is.
But I didn't know that.
It means things that are more powerful in threes. And I come from like an Irish family, so it just felt kind of fitting. Awesome. This was one of my first ones too. It's kind of a running joke because my middle sister and I went and got it together. My oldest sister is truly an oldest child. She's like pretty straight-laced. She doesn't have any tattoos. And so we just kind of assumed she wouldn't get it. Mm-hmm. And then we didn't think that one all the way through. And then I left for a trip like shortly after that. I think I went abroad. And my oldest sister called and she was like, oh, cool, so you got a sister tattoo, and just decided not to tell me. And we were like, oh, yeah, now that you say it out loud, that sounds kind of bad.
I love you too.
Sorry, yeah, like, get it now. And she's like, no, now I don't want it. And we were like, you wouldn't have gotten it in the first place.
Right.
So.
Did she end up getting it?
No.
Oh, man, that would be hilarious. She did one day.
We keep telling her, like, every few years, we're like, come on, like, just get it. It's time.
Or get a new one.
Yeah, I don't think she'll ever do it. She's too much of a, we call her the golden child. So.
Oh, I like, there's got to be one.
Always. It's usually the oldest.
My brother and I are both horrible. We both went through our stages, you know? I feel like I rocked the boat first as the youngest, and then he was really well behaved. It made me look really bad. Yeah. And then things shifted, but now we're both, thankfully, found our way home somehow.
There you go.
Do you have a rebellious past?
Not deeply. My parents, no, I would say no. I've never been arrested. I've definitely, you know, partied a little bit, but like, I was by far the most rebellious child. Okay. But I just feel like it's all relative. Yep. Like my oldest sister, like, never got in trouble. My middle sister dabbled a little bit, and I just, like, my relationship with my parents is complicated. And how I felt about, like, and feel about their parenting style. They were very strict. I mean, they stuck to it. It was I give them credit. Like, they stuck to their guns all the time, and they, you know, felt like it was the right way to do it for them. And I am who I am today because of it. But they were super duper strict. And so I was just like, I'm a teenager. I want to go to parties. I want to, like, go hang out with my friends. So, like, if you tell me I can't do it, I'm just going to lie to you. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you I'm doing something else. Yep.
I was really good at that. Yeah. I was too good at that.
So I lied constantly. And, like, I just always, there's a lot of funny stories of me. It's a pretty typical birth order shit. Like, I just didn't want to follow the rules. It would be like, my parents would be like, no, you can't have any candy. And then my dad would come in my room and, like, pull down the covers, and there would be candy wrappers everywhere. He's like, no just wasn't a word that you liked to hear, and you just would ignore it most of the time. Which is still kind of the case.
I feel like we also have that in common too, and I wonder where that comes from.
Yeah, I don't know.
always do. And I now, this is years later and through a lot of therapy, right? Like, I do have some heavy shit that's happened in the past, and I always used to question where it came from, especially as I was getting older and, like, seeing certain patterns that would happen through myself or within my own head. And now trying to tap into things and go into that realm and, like, trying to find the answer is not always the healthiest place to go. Yeah. But it has helped me understand a lot more about my rebellious behavior, or why I just want to say fuck it to the world and, like, one up and always keep going and, like, never stop. And I think it's a sense of trying to feel like you have a sense of belonging and, like, trying to find community and that you can thrive within it and that you're supposed to be there. But because and my parents did everything right, by the way. My parents are incredible people. I put my parents through the ringer. Like, I put them through some shit. And all, like, not really knowing where it came from. But now as I get older, I don't think it had to do with their parenting. I think it had to do with the fact that I was a mixed race child, right? Like, my mom is Irish, 100% Irish, like, blonde hair, green eyes. My dad is 100% Chinese. So I always, like, didn't fit or belong in a setting. Yeah. So I think I was always, like, trying to prove myself and trying to, like, show the world that I got this shit. And, like, no matter what you say to me, whether it was mild insults of racism, or I was always really tall and lanky, and, like, being bullied, I think, forces you to create, like, this strong exterior. And a lot of times they say, right, like, people that are bullied become the bully. Yeah. I went through that whole stage within life, and then thank God was dragged over to the US and was able to have an opportunity to start again. But do you think that anything in your life has happened that maybe doesn't need to be traumatic or something crazy, but do you ever remember, like, a specific point of maybe someone telling you that you looked a little different in middle school, and you feeling like, oh my gosh, or having any trouble with that kind of thing in your life that could be a reason why you are the one of three sisters that just felt like, fuck it, this is who I am, take me as I am, and that's it?
100%. I think, well, part of it, so both of my sisters are extremely beautiful and very tall. And both were, like, little models. Like, they could still be models. And I was always just built very differently. Like, I never got the height. My doctor told me I was going to be 6 feet tall. Never happened. I'm 5'7". But both my sisters are, like, 6 feet, 5'11". Wow. And it was just, like, there was always this, like, people would stop them and be like, oh my God, they're so beautiful. Do you model? Like all that stuff. And I was always like shorter, more athletic, such a tomboy. And I think I just kind of leaned into that a little bit, where I was just like, as much as I felt probably like jealousy and inadequacy from those interactions, and from just feeling like they were very beautiful and likable and palatable, and, you know, and I think I just decided like, and it got more and more as time went on. Because when I look back, it's like, in high school, it was like, I was pretty vanilla. Like, you know, I was wearing like Abercrombie and Fitch and like all that shit. But like, I really leaned into like sports and being, you know, like sort of like the athletic one. They were super athletic too, so it's not that. But it was just like, I leaned on that for my identity a lot more than I think they did. And then as time went on, I was like, I don't want to be fucking regular. Like, I want to do anything I can to be like different from other people. And that's gotten more and more, even as I thought it was something maybe that I would outgrow, but here I am like 31 years old with purple hair and like long ass ridiculous nails and all that shit. And it's like, I still feel that feeling where, and I don't know if it's a need to like distinguish myself, but it's, I just like the feeling of not being like everybody else. That's awesome. Not walking down the street. Like, I don't like being mistaken for somebody else. Like, nobody ever says like, oh, I thought I saw, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
there's no way.
Exactly. It's like, no, nobody looks like me. Like, nobody does it like me. And like, I like that.
That's awesome, man. And I hope that everyone that is listening can hear that, because social media is such a dangerous place, which is, I told you before, like, my screen time is embarrassing considering my entire life is because of Instagram, right? It's a business. It's a tool for me. It's a way that I'm able to reach the world. But it has to end there, because I don't think that I'm mentally strong enough to handle the pressure. Like, if I was in high school right now, I don't think I'd make it. I honestly don't think I'd make it.
Man, I don't know how they do it.
Neither do I.
I really don't.
So all of those girls, if you're listening, and my demographic is older, but if you have kids, man, like, try and instill this message into them, which I wish that someone told me it's okay to be different. Like, be different, because being different is probably going to separate you from the rest, right? It's a really scary place to be at can you imagine? 16.
No.
Instagram, TikTok, like, what the fuck? It's a dangerous place. If you had one message that you could tell someone at 16, what would it be?
I think when it comes to social media especially, and I'll be the 1 millionth person to say this, it's like, it's never as fun as they make it look. It's never, their life is never what you think it is. And I'm sure you've probably experienced, because like, you've been in the game a lot longer than I have. Like, the social media thing is new to me within the last less than a year. So I'm sure you've like met a lot of those people in real life, and that's starting to happen with me. And you start to understand that it's not, a lot of them are really deeply unhappy.
A lot of them are assholes, man.
Assholes.
Which hurts, because
deeply unhappy, entitled, and it's just not who you want to be, and you will never, ever get the validation that you think you will from a social media, like the amount of likes or follows or any of that stuff. Like, I've never met an expectation from, you know, because it's like, I didn't have a following 6 months ago, and I definitely thought when I had 1,000 followers, I'd be like, man, like, must be crazy to have 50,000 followers. Like, I can't even imagine. It doesn't. Nothing changes.
Like, right, exactly.
It doesn't make you any happier. It doesn't make you any cooler. It changes nothing whatsoever, other than like some people's reaction to you over social media. And sometimes that's positive. A lot of times it's negative. Yep. Like, you get a lot of shit from people, and a lot of people wanting to like sort of bring you down a peg. So I guess something that I would say to a 16-year-old kid would just be like, just put your blinders on and like keep out of the bullshit. Like, just live. What's better than like actually being 16 and like not worrying about like the adult world that's out there, you know? Like, that's what social media does to you. It's like glamorizes all this adult shit that sucks.
Yeah, it really does.
It really
Being an adult is hard.
Just like, be a fucking kid and like, don't. If you're a girl, especially, it's like no amount of like online attention, and it's like, do you, girl?
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in, like, I will never shame anybody for anything they're doing, and that's something I've learned is it's like, if you're doing, like, fitness porn, I don't care.
Right.
Doesn't affect me
Right.
whatsoever. You can do you. But it's like, again, no amount of validation is going to make you a better you or make you feel better about yourself. Like, you have to do that shit yourself.
Yeah, and I think finding what it is that makes you feel good is where you got to focus. And if I put myself in a 16-year-old's mind right now, I don't think I would know what that would be. It's like, well, if you don't know, just keep trying new things that you actually enjoy. It's like, I didn't know what passion was. It's like, oh my gosh, everyone around me feels so passionate about what they do. Like, what the fuck is passion?
Yeah.
I'm just going through the motions and telling people this is what this makes me feel so good. No, don't do that. Literally keep trying, and something's going to click. Something's going to land, and run with it. And don't stop ever.
Cherish your
authentic.
friendships, cherish your family,
yeah,
like all those things that you'll have like almost unlimited time to cultivate as you get older.
Yeah, and be a good person. And we're talking to the girls, but this also goes to guys. I did a podcast with the guys over at Sweat It Out, and they made a comment that made me like go, oh my gosh, I never really looked at it like that because I'm not in the skin of a 16-year-old boy, right? But he's like, and as a guy, if I was to say something to a guy, I would be like, you don't have to be strong. You don't have to not cry. You don't have to always have everything together. You don't always have to manage the whole world. Like,
I could go on for days about toxic masculinity.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
oh my God. I mean, as a straight woman, like, an emotionally evolved, if you can, as a teen and through your 20s, actually be in touch with your emotions, the amount of progress you'll have, or I guess like a head start over so many people, because we teach boys to be repressed and like angry, essentially. It's like the only healthy way that you can express your emotions is through anger and aggression. Just punch your way out of it. But like, you'll be so much better off if you just like can feel your feelings and try to like understand and empathize with other people. Man, I mean, I truly do think that Gen Z is going to, like, save the world, because I think that they're trending in the right direction when it comes to that. Like, social media is a scary thing, but it's also, like, they're far more woke than we are. They are, like, far more, like, I love the gender fluidity. I fucking love that shit, because it's just, like, the more that each generation can just let people be themselves, the better off I think that we're going to be as a society.
Absolutely. And I think also not falling into a category, or like just being yourself and embracing exactly who you are. And if it makes you feel like you have more of a sense of a belonging, if you are part of a group community, then that's what you got to do. But I have a friend that their daughter right now is identifying as pansexual, right? Which is at 12 years old is incredible from one point of view, that you understand who you are at that age. But at the same time, it's like, now with that label on your head, that doesn't mean that's who you need to be for the rest of your life. Right? Like, you can continue to move from place to place, and just being who you are and not being concerned about fitting into a space is so important. And if that space, your own internal space, changes over time, let it happen. Flow like water, and just fly, spread your wings, and try and find who you are. And I think that's the hardest thing to do, because it's ultimately up to you. And at a young age, it's like, you don't think that it's your choice, right? It's like the whole world is telling you where you should go. Your parents are trying to tell you where you should go. Your community, your friends, or your brother or your siblings. You don't need to go in the same direction as them. You can go in a different direction, and it's okay to wonder. I think, right?
And it's okay. Yeah, it's okay for that to change over time. And I think the less constricted we are in those boundaries, because that's something that it took me a long time to get there, to not feel like I needed to be super feminine all the time, and not feel like I needed to be falling into, in order to be desirable, and it's not even just like to men, because that's like what I'm interested in. It's also like women like look up to you, or like look at you being like, oh, she's doing it right because like men are attracted to her, or whatever. And in reality, like, you're probably just making yourself really unhappy, just trying to do all of these things for like the satisfaction of other people. When like even something as simple as your wardrobe and stuff like that, and just like actually having fun with your wardrobe, like that is within the last, I don't know, I would say 5 years, something that I've like had so much fun with is just like, they call it dopamine dressing. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but I love it.
My friend introduced me to that term. She's she owns her own vintage clothing business.
Give her a shout out.
Tangerine Queen. She's based in San Francisco, but she has an Etsy shop too. And she's so fucking talented and just so like so much fun. She loves prints and colors. And so just like me getting into that and also getting into like, I love androgynous clothing. Like I love wearing big baggy men's clothes. Yeah. Sometimes I like wearing like little tight dresses and like super girly shit. And just allowing yourself to be all of those things at the same time and realizing like you don't have to just be one.
No.
You can wake up and decide. And we're all just fucking playing dress up, aren't we? Like every day you wake up and you're like, who am I going to be today?
Exactly. What vibe am I feeling?
Yeah.
But go back to high school. I remember wearing a For All Mankind jeans.
Yep.
Ugg boots that had to have the fur on the inside.
Oh, Jesus.
What was it called? Longchamp bags.
Longchamp, yeah.
Yeah, Longchamp bags.
Yeah.
Abercrombie and Fitch, if that was the case. But what was the hoodie? Like a North Face hoodie.
North Face jacket.
This is Massachusetts, right? Like I went to school in Longmeadow. That was, everyone wore the same thing.
It was horrifying.
Right?
It was so bad. Yeah, I mean, I came up and you obviously at the same time in one of the worst times in fashion history.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's so bad.
Moccasins.
And it's like not even that. It's like that we all just looked exactly the same. Mm-hmm. And it's human nature to want to like fit into a group at that age. But still, I look back at photos from that time and I'm like, man,
You
that's
thought you
bad.
had it right, though,
We
right?
really thought we were doing something with those Ugg boots, man.
Man, good times.
Those low-rise jeans.
So to wrap it up, we always ask a couple questions, right?
Okay.
What is the number one thing that you think that people, back to fitness, that people overthink? And what is the number one thing that you think that people underthink when it comes to being fit or something to do with fitness?
Overthink? I think that people think that everything when it comes to being healthy and fit boils down to your whatever hour-long workout. It really doesn't. And the first thing I'll always tell people to do if they're brand new is just be more active. Like just play. Mm-hmm. Go. Do you like to do something? Like, is there anything in your life that you've ever liked to do? Just go do it. Like, go play a game. So many people in Austin play pickleball, which is like, it's like such a silly sport.
We have a whole racket system.
But like, it's people love it and they play and they're out there, they're sweating, they're having fun. Do you like to walk? Do you have a dog? Like, start with that shit. Like, the things that you do, the 23 hours a day, is going to have way more an effect than if you're doing super specific stuff in the gym. You can get into that once you are into it and you're wanting to like maybe test yourself from a performance perspective. But in reality, it's like, let's just be healthier people. And then you can get really hard into the fitness stuff when you enjoy it.
I love that.
What was the other thing?
So that was
overthink.
Overthink.
What do we underthink? Sleep.
That is so true.
Like, people just do not prioritize sleep.
Yep.
And it blows my mind.
Yep.
It's like the best thing you can do for yourself is sleep.
Are you a solid 7, 8 hour?
8 hours. I'm 8 hours.
8 hours
every night, baby. I love to sleep, and I've never understood that like, oh, like sleep when you're dead. Like, no, it's like you'll die early is what's gonna happen.
Right. And from having a gym, dude, oh my gosh, we were on the 4 to 5 hour cycle for 5 years.
Yeah.
Since the gym is closed, and now I can actually get home at a decent time and not have to be at the gym up at 3:30 every day. Like, it's a game changer. Oh. The production of work, love, whatever it is that you put out, the energy that you put out is such high quality when you have a good night's sleep.
Everything changes.
Do you have any like equipment that helps you? Cooling sheets? Do you have a white noise? Do you meditate? Do you do something before bed to help you? I can't sleep for 8 hours straight.
Yeah, so I also encourage people to, like, if you're not someone that easily sleeps 8 hours straight, there is some research that, like, human beings were not always, like, sleeping, like, just overnight. That it's, like, the 9 to 5 workday is kind of what did that to us. I'm a great napper, too. I mean, my parents were always just like, you're just a fucking sleeper. Like, you just could sleep. So I've always been pretty good at it. Now I have a good routine where it's like, I usually will do some work on my laptop at night, like my programming, stuff like that, emailing. And then like a half hour before I go to bed, I take CBD. I take Verb Lab CBD oil. That like puts me into like a dream state. Like,
Awesome.
And then I like meander my way to bed, say goodnight to the pets. And yeah, that's
But you can
about
sleep,
it.
like no little lights in the room don't distract you. Yeah,
Not really.
I like that. I got to get some sheets, man. Now, they say that as a fitter person, that our body temperature throughout the night can definitely spike up and come down.
I crank my shit down to like 68 degrees.
68? I'm a 68er.
maximum. Yeah.
But even if I'm in 68, if I have thick sheets, I will be drenched in sweat.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
so also having a man in your bed
Oh,
makes a really big
I know.
difference. They're furnaces. Like anytime I lived with my ex-boyfriend and it was like we had to sleep very far away from each other, and I would always sleep with one leg outside of the covers because just his body heat would change my sleep completely.
big time.
And now I'm so spoiled because I don't ever sleep with
You just
anybody in my
sprawl
bed.
right
I just
out.
sprawl out.
so
yeah.
I just found something out the other day. Do you know what an Alaskan king bed is?
No.
Okay, I have to bring this up.
Is it like a California king?
No, there's 2 more sizes above a California king. I had no
Take
idea.
up my whole bedroom.
It's insane. Oh, no, I would never be able to fit this in a house. Like, this is ridiculous. But look at this. Alaskan, I don't even know how to spell it, king bed. This is ridiculous. And if you aren't watching right now, Google it, okay? Because this is just ridiculous. I didn't think that it was Alaskan.
While you're Googling, also, one of my clients was telling me today about, now I'm forgetting what they're called, but it's like a cooling pad that
Yes.
you put on your mattress. People swear by those.
I've heard, I think it was Matt Frazier that was talking about that on Joe Rogan's podcast. So I'm going to definitely look into that. Look at this thing.
Is that a family of 6?
That's a family of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8 people.
8 people.
And a
with
dog.
A dog. I'm not even sure if you can see this. Probably not. Well, you got to Google it. And by the way, if you don't want to do an Alaskan king, there's something called a Wyoming king that is 1 step below this.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, what the actual fuck? Like, that's crazy. It can fit 4 or 5 king-size pillows next to each other for the head.
But like unless you're sleeping with your family of 7, who needs that? Like, do you really
Clearly,
need
if it's
that
just
much
your wife,
space?
you should probably separate. Or just get a different room, you know, if you have to sleep that far away from your significant other.
Yeah, it's like I don't envy people that have like my sister and her husband are this way. Where like her husband is like a Tasmanian devil when he sleeps, and she's the lightest sleeper.
Oh, man.
So a lot of times they'll sleep in separate rooms because she's like, I cannot sleep while he's like rustling around like that,
I just
and then
had
I'm
that
a bad person
conversation.
in the morning. So
Yeah.
I get it.
I get it too, but then maybe you should get an Alaskan king.
Totally.
You know, that maybe that would make sense. Actually, Julian Smith, that was on our podcast last week with Casey, his wife was saying the same thing. He's all of a sudden going for sleep studies now because he's like Mortal Kombat style in his sleep, and she was pregnant, so she was like getting a hook to the face and in the belly, and so she needed a sleep. And they also had to, figure out the sleeping situation, but. I am grateful for the fact that I can sleep. You sound like you've got solid sleep. And I hope that all these little tips helped you guys. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. This
Where
is
can
wonderful.
everyone find you? Tell them everything about you, and we'll make sure to put it in the show notes as well.
Okay. Well, if you're an Austin resident, you can find me at Collective off of South Congress.
With a K.
With a K, yes. On social media, I am Kelly L. Matthews on Instagram and TikTok. That's it. I
love
think.
that. I love that.
Strongwithkelly.com is my website.
Sweet. I dig it. Well, thank you so much for your time, your knowledge, and for sharing. And we'll go throw down again sometime.
Love it.
Boom.
Thanks, guys.